So today I'm at my place just chipping away at the head-to-toe reno that I've got going on over here, and I thought it might be a good opportunity to do a quick and easy how-to. So today I'm just replacing some electrical outlets and switches that need updating just because they're ugly. There's nothing wrong with them, but you'll notice that it certainly dates the look of a room. So while updating these kinds of things isn't going to update the look of a room on its own, certainly leaving them is going to date the room. So besides the aesthetic reasons of replacing these kinds of things, you're obviously going to want to replace an outlet if it's not sending power to whatever's plugged into it, or if the plug isn't sitting in tightly. Sometimes I know we've probably all had a loose plug that just sort of falls out of the receptacle. So again, that can be dangerous. So let's get replacing those as well. So if you don't know how, stick around and I'll show you exactly how to do it. It'll be super easy. Let's get at it. So here's what we're working with. As you can see, it's had better days. This outlet. Here's the new one. Easy switch. So what we're gonna do first is we're gonna take off this faceplate. Turn off your power if you're gonna do this. Turn off your power. So you're gonna want to go down to the breaker panel, turn it off. If you have a voltage detector like this, it's gonna tell you there's power going to that outlet. If you don't have one, a lamp will probably work. Just plug it in here. You can see that my lamp's working. When I go down to shut the breaker off, I'm gonna leave that lamp on and it should shut off. So let's go down to the breaker panel. We're at the breaker panel now and we just wanna shut off the breaker that corresponds to the room that we're working on. So if you know what breaker panel it is, that's great. If you have a nicely labeled breaker panel, that's even better. If you don't, then you can do some trial and error. Maybe you plug a radio in upstairs, and when you shut off the breaker and the radio goes off, that's how you know that the power's off. If you're by yourself and don't want to go running up and down the stairs to test it, then you can just shut all the power off. Our power's off now. We can tell because our light is off and we left it plugged in, so that's a good indicator. Double check with your voltage tester if you want. So we're gonna unplug it. We don't have any noise coming out of here and the light doesn't flash, so we're good to go. First step is to take off our faceplate. Our next step is we're just going to remove this outlet. So you will notice, or you may be able to notice, that over the years it's been painted over a little bit. You can see these little tabs have been painted over. So when you unscrew those, they tend to peel up the paint, so it looks pretty ugly. So what I like to do is just get a knife and cut along there, or at least score it, so when you unscrew the outlet, the paint doesn't rip all the way up past where the faceplate's gonna go. Now we're just gonna take this off. So there we are. So if you're new to this or just forgetful, you're gonna want to perhaps maybe take a photo of where the wires are coming in and out. Although it's pretty easy to remember that the black goes in on the right side and the white comes in on the left side, and then you've got your ground here at the bottom. If your outlet's really old, you may notice that the wires are actually going in through the back here as opposed to being wrapped around the wire. So you'll see when we install the next one, we're just going to wrap the wire around these screws here as they should be. But this is really normal, so all you're going to want to do is cut those wires off. We're going to try and cut them as close to the old receptacle as you can. Leave yourself some space. However, the ground, should be able to unscrew that, no problem. You don't need to cut that. Get rid of this. We need to wrap these wires around the new receptacle here. So obviously, since we cut them, we don't have enough room to wrap them around because the wire's been obviously insulated, and we need to expose some of that wire. So we're just going to get some basic wire strippers and strip about a quarter to half an inch off each of those wires. We've got all the wires stripped, and now we're just going to want to put a hook on on the end of each wire. So I'll show you why in just a second. So I've got hooks on each of these wires now, and you can see the reason that I've done that is when you put the hook on the wire, it's going to wrap around the screw. So when you turn the screw to tighten it, you turn it in a clockwise direction, the screw is going to wrap around with it. Only important thing to know here, well, there's a few important things to know, but one of them is that we don't want the insulation to be too far back behind the receptacle. So if the insulation is too far behind the receptacle, so there's exposed wire there, you just want to cut a little bit off of the wire here, so you're essentially shortening the part that isn't insulated. So now it's just a matter of tightening everything up. You're going to want to make sure that you're tightening these very quite snug and tightly here. You don't want anything coming loose. Is all hooked up, it's all wired and ready to be put back in the wall. One thing that you just may notice here is this little bit of metal, and it's called the break-off tab. And what that break-off tab does, if you were to break it off, you would just use these, either a set of pliers or something, wiggle it back and forth, and it would break off. And what you would be doing there is you'd essentially allow yourself to have power in one of these outlets and have a switch or something control the other. So they would be more independent than obviously just power going to both of those constantly. I don't need that in this case, so I'm just gonna put it back in the wall here. So I'm just gonna give these wires a bit of a bend so they fit back into the wall here, and then I'm gonna line these screws up to the holes in the junction box, and then just put everything back in. And now we all have left is to put on the faceplate. Okay, everything looks pretty, so let's just plug this light back into the receptacle here. Go turn on the power and see if it works. So here we are, folks, job done. Hopefully when you go to do your own, it's as easy as it looks. I promise you it is. You can do it yourself, no problem. I'm just gonna go around the room now and tackle the rest of these switches and outlets. Switches are the exact same process, except they tend to be a little easier because there are less wires. But if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. That would be cool. Until next time.